Welcome back to another edition of our year-end wrap-up in the country music world. We already looked at the best albums, and today we're going to be looking at songs, and specifically hit songs. I always do 2 song videos at the end of the year, one of the best hits, and one of the best kind of more obscure non-hits, non-singles, or just deep album cuts that I think were really good. Because even though a lot of us follow the red dirt scene, the independent scene of country music, a lot of people don't, and I want everyone to have something to enjoy here. Plus, I think it's cool when quality makes it in the mainstream. So the way that this list works is that every song on it has to come from Billboard's year-end Hot Country Songs chart, which is a list of the top 100 songs that are kind of measured across a number of metrics, including radio airplay, streaming, and sales. This year's chart had 2 ladies at the top. The number 1 song overall was Gabby Barrett's debut single, I Hope, and following that was Maren Morris's smash, The Bones. The 3rd place song overall was Dan and Shay and Justin Bieber's 10,000 Hours, and it should be said that The Bones got remixed with Hozier and sent to pop radio. Gabby Barrett's I Hope had a Charlie Puth remix, and because they're getting so much play across different formats, that definitely drives them up higher on the chart. My taste is not typically all that pop, but those are all well-written songs, and if you love them, then you love them. As I always say in these videos, this is just one guy's opinion. It's not any better than yours. There are only 2 real rules for this list. One of them is that if I included a song on my 2019 year-end list, it cannot also be on my 2020 list. So that knocks out some things that totally would have made it, like Die From a Broken Heart by Maddie and Tay, More Hearts Than Mine by Ingrid Andress, and Even Though I'm Leaving, which is my favorite Luke Combs single ever. The other rule is just that I'm going to try and spread the love, and each artist only gets 1 song on this chart. So even if they had a bunch that would have been eligible for the top 10, if I have included one, their other singles are knocked out. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. These are just the big hit mainstream songs that I think were the best this year. So let's get into the list. At number 10 is Morgan Wallen's Cover Me Up.
So girl, hang your dress out to dry, we ain't.
Morgan Wallen obviously had a huge year. He has become a superstar in 2020. Chasing You was one of the biggest songs of the year. 7 Summers broke all kinds of streaming records, and he's getting ready to release a double album that's going to be a monster hit. But it was Cover Me Up. It reached actually number 97 on the year-end chart. And I'm going to include it as the Morgan Wallen entry on this list because A, I think it's an incredible song, as any Jason Isbell fan knows. B, I think Morgan Wallen sounds incredible on it. And you can say what you want about his popular production style or his antics with sorority girls in Alabama, but you cannot deny the power of his voice, the gravel in it, the way he delivers things, and I think it's captured beautifully on this more acoustic song. And C, I just think it's really cool that Cover Me Up, which is this favorite of independent music fans and this song that has been so lauded over the years within Nashville circles, is getting covered by this huge superstar finding an audience. I mean, this wasn't even a single, but it got streamed so much that it made the year-end chart. And sure, it was only number 97 overall, but a lot of people would kill for that position. And now maybe a lot of those people are listening to their first Jason Isbell album, and that's a win for everybody. At number 9 is Justin Moore's Why We Drink. This is probably the happiest song on this list, and maybe 2020 was in the air when I was making this list, but they're a little bit more melancholy than maybe a normal collection of songs. But Why We Drink is just totally underrated in my mind, as was the entire project it came from, Late Nights and Long Necks. That album was a perfect example of taking traditional country sounds and Justin Moore's thick twang and making it feel totally modern and fresh. And certainly on Why We Drink, that was the case. Justin Moore sounds incredible on this song. It's a lot rangier than you might think about because it's so fun to sing along to and melodic. The subject matter is pretty lighthearted. Justin Moore is singing about how it's alcohol abuse if you pour one down the sink, and that's why he drinks. And look, sometimes we all need a lighthearted song, especially one that sounds like it came straight out of the golden age of 90s country. At number 8 is Chris Stapleton's Starting Over.
I got friends out on the coast.
This is a pretty simple, positive ballad that finds Chris Stapleton and his wife Morgan talking about their loyalty to each other, their desire to kind of go through life's hardships together and, if necessary, start over, re-find one another, and kind of embark on the adventure through life. I mean, Chris Stapleton got really famous in the last few years, and they've got a bunch of kids between them, and it feels like he's sort of coping with all that. He says he has no kind of plan, but he's had all of this town that I can stand. And now him and his wife are kind of preparing to take on the future storms of life together. But there's this youthful romanticism in the chorus where he says, "I can be your lucky penny, you can be my four-leaf clover." It's so sweet, it's so simple. You've got Stapleton's voice and Morgan's voice, not to ignore that on this, and what's not to like? My number 7 song is Monsters by Eric Church.
I killed my first monster when I was 7 years old.
This is another song that I think was completely underrated and I think has a lot to say. Eric Church is this guy, that guy, in fact, that has a dark side, but then he's also a father, and all of his albums for the last few years have featured that duality. And what makes Monsters such a special song is that it is confronting the harsh, dark realities of the world in the context of being a kind, sweet father. As he reflects on his own fear of monsters underneath the bed when he was a kid and taking a mag light and melting them like butter, he also reflects upon growing up and realizing that the monsters aren't underneath the bed, and you're left to kind of wonder, are they inside of him? Are they bad actors out in the world? Is it all of the above? And then the script flips in the last verse, and now it's his child that is scared of a monster. And I love when country songs do that, when you get a big passage of time in the last verse, and Eric is comforting his kid and praying with him. I think it's a really unique song, and one with a really down-to-earth perspective about faith and prayer, and it brings a tear to my eye every time. At number 6 is Bluebird by Miranda Lambert.
If the house just keeps on winning, I got a wild card in my sleeve.
Miranda Lambert continues to crank out art that is establishing her as one of the legends of country music, and Bluebird is no exception. This is a song about rolling with the punches in life, and when life deals you lemons, well, instead of making it into lemonade, Miranda mixes them in her drink, and when the house is winning, she's got a wild card up her sleeve. It's about kind of staying one step ahead. The Bluebird in this song, I think, is a reference to Somewhere Over the Rainbow, where happy little bluebirds fly. I think it is just a symbol of hope and a symbol of a hopeful perspective. And Miranda keeps coming back to this refrain, "I keep the bluebird in my heart." And I think there's a bit of a wink in this song to the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, which is sort of this iconic songwriting institution, even if it was subconscious in writing it. Because so much of this is about why she makes music, about kind of how she copes with feelings, and she turns them into songs which can then entertain others. And then there's also just the fact that bluebirds chirp in a pretty way, and so maybe it's just about singing and I'm overthinking things, but hey, that's what we're here to do, right? This song really became a huge smash this year. It returned Miranda Lambert to the number 1 spot on the chart, and she hasn't been there for a long time, and I love to see that. Now we just gotta get Tequila Does to be a single. My number 5 song is Ain't Always the Cowboy by John Pardi. Heartache Medication was my number 1 album of all of 2019, and one of the reasons for that was because it featured the fiddle so prominently. And I think it's cool now that John Pardi has had back-to-back hit singles that have Janae Fleener just tearing it up on the fiddle so prominently in the song. As much as we think fiddles are super common in country music, they're actually not that common on country radio, so I love to see one of my favorite instruments making a comeback. But I also think the concept of this song is super compelling. It's sort of twisting the narrative of the cowboy rides away as popularized by George Strait. Sometimes it's the cowboy's lover that is riding off into the sunset and leaving the cowboy staring down at his dusty boots and sad. It's big and blustery, but also neo-traditional, and I just am so pumped for the success of John Pardi in this album. And I'm also really pumped that my little guilty pleasure from the album, Tequila Little Time, is officially the next single. That is going to be, I mean, y'all already know it's going to be on the 2021 list. I just can't resist that song. At number 4 is Betty by Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I showed up at your party. Will you have me? Will you love
I can already imagine the comments that just say, Taylor Swift's not country. I don't really care. This song is on the chart and this song slaps. And how are you going to tell me that a song with acoustic guitar and harmonica that's telling a real story is not more country than half the crap that you're hearing on the radio? I just don't want to hear it. Betty finds Taylor Swift singing the perspective of a teenage boy named James who has broken Betty's heart by cheating on her over their summer break. And in the song, James is all up in his head imagining what his apology is going to be to Betty, hoping that she might take him back or wondering if she's going to tell him off, tell him to go F himself and leave her party. The feeling of this song is like straight out of a teen movie, like She's All That. It kind of reminds me of Sixpence None the Richer's Kiss Me, and it's got this sort of sparkle about it. And then you get to the quiet bridge that builds and builds into this big final chorus with a key change. It's exuberant, it feels youthful, and in every way it has the heightened melodrama of teenage love, and I just think it's excellent. Also, I think it's impossible not to sing that final chorus without screaming it, and I spent a lot of time in my car this year screaming that final chorus, just being like, "You go, James, get Betty back." Before we get into our top 3, let me tell you some of the songs that almost made the list. These are some honorable mentions. Homemade by Jake Owen is a song filled with gratitude. I think it deserved a lot more credit. Hole in the Bottle by Kelsey Ballerini is a twangy pop country jam. One Night Standards by Asher McBryde was another favorite of mine. I loved Seven Summers by Morgan Wallen, but again, we're only including one song per artist on this list. She's Mine by Kip Moore showed off his rock side and launched that great album Wild World. Gaslighter by the Dixie Chicks was always stuck in my head. The Chicks was always stuck in my head. And then Blessings by Florida Georgia Line was their most tasteful and most country single that they've put out in a long time. And number 3 is Midland's Cheatin' Songs.
She's bringing back cheating songs.
Here's another song I think deserves to be way higher up on the chart, and if you enjoy Midland's sound and the steel guitar and the vintage feel that is straight out of, as this song says, 1973, then you gotta be happy that songs like this are playing on country radio in 2020, even if they haven't been the biggest hits. This song is so Midland in that it is romanticizing kind of the scuzzy, smoky bars and the women in tight-fitting jeans that are following them around. They love kind of that idea that they are playboys, and this song is kind of fitting right into that. And when Midland writes with Shane McAnally and Josh Osborne, it is just a really good combination. Those guys are so good at infusing a song with a playfulness, almost a Desperate Housewives kind of humor. This song is literally about this woman that is clearly cheating on him or having an affair. There's a diamond ring in the back pocket of her jeans. They have a great line where it says, "She's lying with him, but she's lying to me." But the perspective isn't even really that suspicious. It's kind of romantic and woozy. My favorite song ever by Midland is one called Put the Hurt on Me, where they are inviting the pain of this woman. This song is very similar in its themes, and it is just as irresistible in its sound. My number 2 song is Does to Me by Luke Combs featuring Eric Church.
It might not mean much to you, but it does to me.
I really debated what was going to be in this spot because it was between this and that song 6 Feet Apart, which Luke released early on in the quarantine. It's really captured in that moment of springtime as he talks about the dogwoods blooming and how normally he'd be happy. I freaking love that song, but it's not that it feels gimmicky, it just feels very specific to 2020, and I think Does to Me, as far as a Luke Combs entry on this list, feels a lot more universal, and I adore this song. And what I really love about it is that it's got a very healthy self-image. Luke talks about his supposed unremarkability. Even though he calls himself a third-string dreamer on a second-place team, he's still proud of that hit that he made in a football game. Even though his brother went to jail and he had to pawn his guitar to pay his bail, he's still happy with that decision. And these seemingly mundane moments of his life are part of what make him who he is. Eric Church has a pretty small part of the song, and his bridge brings in kind of the generational story of his family, his granddaddy's blade, and his mama's Bible. And this is simply a song about being proud of who you are, where you came from, the memories that make you who you are. There's something about this song that feels masculine without being macho, that feels proud without being prideful, and it's so nice to sing along to. Beautiful words, beautiful melody. Ray Fulcher, Tyler Reeve, Luke Combs, they wrote a great song. And my number 1 favorite hit country song of 2020 is I Hope You're Happy Now by Carly Pearce and Lee Brice. Carly actually wrote this song with Luke Combs, as well as Randy Montana, who is having quite a moment as a songwriter, and Jonathan Singleton as well. And this is a cool, different duet that feels like it's a love song, but is really a breakup song. There's an anger and a fire in it at the same time. And the whole thing lyrically rests on that one phrase, I hope you're happy now. And what makes the song super special is this simple. You don't know if it is a tell-off, an angry, I hope you're happy now, like look what you've done, or a sincere hope that I really want you to be happy since I'm left here broken and a mess and crying on the floor. I hope you're happy now, like truly, because this wasn't meant to be. I would say it's both, and it is a longing, angry song that feels really classic. Brice sounds amazing on it. Pearce sounds amazing on it. That longing is right there in their voices. It's not overly dressed up with booming percussion. It's tasteful. It's cool. I love that it became a sleeper long-term hit because I think it deserves it. I listen to this song all the way through every single time it comes on. I like the little light, smooth electric guitar going through. I love when the big chorus hits and you hear their voices together. The song's got a nice build. It's just all around exemplary. And it's my #1 favorite hit country song of 2020. So that's it for me, guys. Those are my favorite hit country songs. And if you're like, Grady, I want some stuff that's more obscure. I want some stuff that's more independent. I want some songs I've never heard before. Well, just wait a couple days. We're going to be doing minor hits and non-singles very soon. I love you guys. Thanks for checking out the video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Share it if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys pretty soon.